More shoreline than the whole coast of California.
Excuse me.
This place right here has more shoreline than the whole coast of California. And apparently, every summer. Hang on.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ozark Talks with me, Garrett, and Lance and Taylor. Welcome, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. And today we're going to get into episode 3, My Dripping Sleep. And right away about this episode, I noticed that I hadn't paid attention to the title before. I hadn't given it any notice or seen how it connected to the rest of the episode. So we'll talk about that after we go into some of the content, but I wanted you guys to keep that in mind, My Dripping Sleep. It was a fun title to go along with the content. So the opening scene was a boy laying down, looking up at the sky. Was Jonah. It was Jonah laying down, just looking up at the sky, drifting off. And then you suddenly hear Marty arguing with the movers. The movers are all on the movers are there, and they've unloaded everything onto the lawn.
Example, I want you to tell me one example of someone who said, we'd like you to take everything that we own and dump it on our front lawn. Just make sure you don't put anything on the inside of the house. You give me one example of that and I'll drop it.
So Marty tries his negotiation there, and it fails. So we see a little bit of failure going on there, and then there's also a mention that they forgot the toy chest. So there's a little bit of that end of childhood theme coming up again, and a non-transcendent viewer might write that off as just, triggering our emotions about Charlotte and her growing up, but it's actually referring to Marty growing up in a certain sense too. Because what battles, he's realizing what battles he can actually win and how to win them, and what ones are just worthless. And this one with the movers is completely worthless. They stonewall him. And they say, oh, you can file a complaint. And he says, well, show me one time when someone has called you up and said, I want you to come and pack my stuff in my house and unload it onto my lawn. Don't put anything in the house. If you can show me that one thing, then I'll drop this. And the guy just stonewalls him. So he's realizing his tactics are not working with this guy, and that there are battles that he can proceed with and ones that he can't. So I like the toy chest reference there. I thought it was nice.
And then right away at that point, Marty just gets the whole family going. Everybody grab a box.
Right.
Get to work.
So let's do it.
Otherwise, you can get jobs and help the family.
Yeah.
So the very next scene is the kids see Buddy naked. And I think that's important, that his character represents sort of a direct and brutal facing of the facts of life. I mean, he's faced down his own death. He's already dead, essentially. He sold his house to them in the context of him being able to live the last year of his life there, and then he dies and they get to keep it. So he's been brutal and direct about the truth the whole time we've seen him. So the kids get to see that for the first time. It's a nice foreshadowing.
Boy, buddy, any chance you could start throwing on some trunks? You got people in the house now, kids. No.
So the next thing that happens, we see Marty training the kids to lie. He's like, okay, so what are we going to say at school about what we're doing here?
Mm-hmm. We bought a resort called the Blue Cat. And at one point he says something along the lines of, hopefully we're only here for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's, it seems like he's still at the point where he thinks, oh, we can just, handle this real quick. One thing, bing, bang, boom, done.
It can be one of those lies that parents tell to their kids too. He knows it isn't going to be that quick.
And then there was that little scene where Charlotte asks why the mom told her the truth about the dad laundering money. And she says, did you want us to turn on old Marty here? And then Marty looks, Charlotte says that to Wendy because Wendy was the one who told them, okay, your father launders money for a drug cartel.
Oh, yeah.
So the kid, when Charlotte was asking why that was. And then we get the theme of the organic pistachio ice cream, which comes up a few more times later on. The daughter wants this ice cream and the mom's trying to fulfill it and just can't. So there's this disconnect going on, represented by the ice cream. So I liked how they use simple, mundane items like that to represent these conflicts in their life. So we're seeing, on one level, you could think of it as literary tricks. But on another level, it's kind of like how our life works. There's literary tricks in our life that are like that. It's not just pistachio ice cream. It's not just the organic pistachio ice cream. It's representative of her requests as a daughter to the mother and the mother's inability to fulfill them.
And attempting to recreate their Chicago life in the Ozarks.
Right.
The entitlement and the expectations of having organic pistachio ice cream. Because who doesn't have that?
And right after that, we see her she's like, I don't need a ride. I'll take an Uber. And then she's like, fuck, there's no Uber out here.
Crushing your dreams, sweetheart.
So then we get Marty picking up on all this. And he says, whining is not going to help. So another good line from him, summing up his character. And he says, whining is not going to help. We're all in this together. And he's just solid. Regardless of what has just happened, he just picks it up solid every single time. So next we end up at the Langmores. And we see Ruth, the smartest one in the Langmores. And there's a reference to her dad. Oh no, is this where Ruth comes into the Blue Cat? No, I think that's later. We just see her talking with Russ and stuff, right?
Yeah, she basically tells the other Langmores, she convinces them that it's in their best interest not to spill the beans about Marty and his 8 million or whatever, which we'll see later. She needs that to be a secret that only she knows, so she can use that in negotiations with Marty.
Right. And then they tell us why at the end of the episode. I mean, her whole plan. Why she's working, but that's later on.
We see a scene with Marty where he says, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And then he asks, what do we have? This is when he's at the Blue Cat, and he asks Rachel, what do we have here that no one else has? And she just makes fun of him. And then he goes through exactly how he's going to drive traffic and make the business work. So he's just demonstrating his skills at being able to do that, where he shines. And while he's explaining that, she looks at him and says, "Are you high?" He's like, "What?" She's like, "Your eyes." We see the first little bit of Marty starting to crack with the no sleep. So he's been running on just excitement for the first few days in the Ozarks, and now he's starting to face the fact that within a week he has to be sending money back to Dell. And then we first see Petty, the FBI agent, comes into the Blue Cat here. So that's just a little bit. We see that he's now entered the Ozarks and entered the story more fully. Next, we got Wendy driving, and she's got the cartel guys on her tail, following her in a black SUV. She's obviously terrified, but she just chokes it down and goes into the store and does her business anyway. So we see her consistently able to operate under whatever stress or pressure is going on. Get back to the Blue Cat. The same story song is still playing. And this is where Ruth comes in and gets a job. And forgive the pun, but she's absolutely ruthless.
Yeah, she tells Marty she's not leaving without gainful fucking employment.
So we see her, she's observed how Marty operates, and she uses his ways against him here.
Yeah, she's very adaptive. She's a lot like Marty. She's a character who's going to escape her upbringing, her orbit. She's graduating into a higher level of operation in her life. She doesn't know it yet.
Right. And the moment Marty realizes he's met his match, he flips it again to gain the upper hand. He goes, okay, come with me. And he hands her the cash to deposit. And then she goes and deposits it. And he says, you've just committed an overt act.
Mm-hmm.
Cameras, they've seen you do it too. So he's like, if I go to jail, then you're going with me. That's how this is going to work. And then he hires her. He said, you want to wash dishes for minimum wage? Be my guest.
Does that mean I'm hired? She says.
Yeah. So it's great because he has a friend there that on a level that I don't think anyone else gets to understand him as much as she does.
Yeah.
Because of who she is. Then we see Wendy driving, and she sees an anti-abortion billboard and is a little horrified by where she's at. And then she sees the Durwoody Realty on a bench. So she's getting her instructions from reality now. The bench where she stops has the Realty place on it, which will become important later. And that's where she's going to get the house. That's where she's going to get her work going and her ability to help out. Charlotte goes to the job interview, and it seems to be going well. And in the middle of that, she sees Wyatt outside and runs up and punches him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting to see all the family kind of stand up. Next, we get to see what's going on with Jonah watching the cartel murders on his laptop, and Marty walks in and says, "Looking at porn, buddy?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which he's not. Wendy couldn't get the ice cream, so we find out about that. Then we see Wendy and Marty in bed, and Marty's facing that the Blue Cat is not gonna cut it for washing the $8 million.
Yeah, throughout this, they're consistently. Marty steps up in those awkward moments with his kids and represents himself as a good dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, each time with Charlotte, he's like, "Oh,
each time,
nice punch there." Like he just absorbs what happened. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then Marty walks in. He's like, "It's okay, just coming to say hey here."
Yeah.
So then we get to the Langmores. Wyatt's got the black eye, so this is going to propel the story a little further. Ruth is absolutely accepting of all situations. That's what's differentiating her than the rest of the Langmores, is that she just accepts what is very quickly and then operates within that.
Yeah.
So we get a transcendence or an adventurer depiction with her, no matter how low she's gotten or what she has to go through or the bullshit in her life. She just deals with what's exactly happening around her.
Yeah. Which is different than the way her brother or uncle Russ and the FBI agent, the way they enact their drama is much different than Ruth and Marty's family. Right,
because at some point it becomes obvious that Petty is actually, you don't know if he actually cares more about just playing out this love affair than he does about the case.
Yeah, he's taken himself out on people. And it's distorting his ability to even do the case.
Yeah.
He's a self-saboteur.
Yeah, it's disgusting to watch him operate. And it's not disgusting to watch Marty or Ruth, Right. Fascinating too.
Yeah.
All right. So we end up, Wyatt was up there reading, and he's reading a book by a guy who wrote the movie script for Moby Dick, which I thought was a pretty interesting and key reference there. That they're going to drop Moby Dick into the storyline, into the script here. Mm-hmm. And it's showing that Wyatt wants to get out too.
Mm-hmm.
but he's kind of removed from the ability to do so. He's not reading Moby Dick. He's reading a book about the guy who wrote the script for Moby Dick to be turned into a movie.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I got the exact same sense in that scene, and I have no idea what happens with Wyatt down the road. I don't remember, but he has potential, but there's casualties.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have potential doesn't mean you're going to bust loose, break free, and move to the higher level of functioning like Ruth is. And I think he might be one of those beautiful, tragic casualties that we meet in our lives.
Yeah, he might be. And Ruth even recognizes him like that. She later says to him something about it's good to be one of the smart ones out here.
You know what?
And tries to kind of push him to
our world.
To wake up to it a little.
It's good to be one of the smart ones.
But he wants to get out.
Remember that.
And I think he asked her there. I think this might have been where he asked her, hey, when we get some of that money, could I get some so I could just leave? She's like, what, you want to go on a trip? And he's like, no, maybe forever.
Mm-hmm.
He says it kind of half-heartedly, timidly, you know.
Right, and he needs to borrow. He can't even see himself as able to do it. Mm-hmm. It's that, oh, maybe Ruth will give me the ability to do it.
Yeah.
So we're seeing how people will respond to the transcendent character. It's really a lack of character. It's a person who shows up in the person is there in the circumstances, and their character is just a function of the circumstances. So they can actually function. They're not getting in the way of it.
Mm-hmm. With to be fair, Wyatt's really young, and his story might be really young so far. So who knows?
Yeah, he could evolve. We'll see what happens with him.
Yeah.
Oh, and so then Marty's at home working on files and books, keeping the books for the Blue Cat. And suddenly that Sarah McLachlan animal commercial comes on, and she says, and you can adopt an animal and save its poor life. And then suddenly she says, but not you, Marty. If you adopt them, they'll die. So he's starting to trip out here on the no sleep.
It kind of gives the TV a little double take there.
Yeah, well, they did a good job casting there, because if there's anyone who could scare me in the middle of the night, it's Sarah McLachlan.
It was a horrible commercial, and we all know those commercials designed to make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
But Marty's getting mirrored by the TV because he's thinking about his family, obviously. You know, oh, look what danger I've put my kids in. And Sarah McLachlan's rubbing it in by telling him if he adopts the pets, they're going to die.
Yeah, that's a really good unspoken theme throughout, is adopting the pets, and his son comes to have relationships with animals, and his relationship with Sarah McLachlan, the animals, and his son getting to know nature and the animals and death in that way. There's a mirroring there between him and his son taking place.
Mm-hmm. And it cuts to Buddy coughing. He hears Buddy coughing, and he goes up to the door to check on him and doesn't open the door, but we see him like cognize what's going on. So he becomes aware of death just lurking all around again. Mm-hmm. And the next thing we see is Wendy seeing the deer getting eaten by vultures in the yard. And of course, she freaks out and runs out and chases the birds away. And this is a hilarious scene because Marty goes and gets the wheelbarrow from Buddy, puts the bloody, cut up deer into the wheelbarrow, and the FBI pull up with the wheelbarrow right there. So he tells the story to the FBI about Bruce, about the phone call, and he says, oh, I was telling him I'm dissolving the business. And he'd been speaking in Spanish lately, and I wondered what the hell's going on. So he lies to the FBI, and he denies witness protection. And Wendy and Marty stay solid together here.
And they totally had an opportunity there, or at least a perceived opportunity to kind of give up and put it in someone else's hands, you know, say, oh, yeah, come protect us, you know.
And at this point also, we realized Marty had no idea that Bruce was talking to the feds.
Yeah, that was, and I don't know if that really gets covered later on.
They get into it a little more later. He discusses it, how much bravado, or earlier maybe, he discussed with how much bravado Bruce was presenting his case.
And then it makes you look at that moment when don't know if they do a flashback or not, but when Bruce is getting killed and he looks to Marty and he's like, I didn't mean for this to happen. Like, I didn't think anyone would get hurt. It's totally in a different light.
Yeah. Because he knew he was trying to get out of it with the feds.
And steal money at the same time.
Right. That was the problem. Yeah. It's all, Bruce got in a little deep in every angle. And that's when my favorite line of the series so far was when, after that talk with the feds, Wendy looks at Marty and he's just still falling apart with no sleep, but he doesn't realize it yet. And she says, are you okay? And he says, what did he say? I'm getting comfortable with betrayal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm getting used to betrayal. So there's this, it's not, I'm dealing with betrayal. It's like, I've accepted betrayal now as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's learned to digest it to some degree.
Yeah.
So that is an extra step that most shows won't take, most people won't take, is a lot of people will reluctantly deal with things that they don't like, but there's this, I'm getting used to betrayal. You know, I'm getting comfortable with that now. Okay, that's not going to surprise me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm unafflicted with that.
Yeah. How many times can you be betrayed and be surprised by it?
Right. So right after this, Ruth gets confronted at the Blue Cat by Rachel. And Marty gives her a second chance. Says, well, I don't know. All I see is someone washing dishes. Then Bobby Dean shows up to get gas in his boat, and he thinks he's one-ing up Marty here. He really tries to dominate him. And Marty just stands there. And I was going to say stands there and takes it, but he doesn't even take it. He just stands there and watches it like a nasty plume of smoke blowing by.
Yeah, like a wasp just buzzing around him.
And the most hilarious thing is Bobby Dean gives Marty all that he needs in that one scene to go after him.
Mm-hmm.
All he had to do was just not come by or not be a dick, and it may not have gone that way.
Yeah, it's true.
And we also see Marty's patience here and his assessment, his ability to assess things. He knows that it's not the time to go up against him standing there on the dock. There's nothing to be gained by that. So Marty's not involved in it on trying to explain or defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we cut to Wendy yelling at the boy at the grocery store about the pistachio ice cream. I drove an hour and 10 minutes to get here. This is fucking mint. Does this look like pistachio ice cream?
Yeah.
He's like, oh man, you must have made a mistake. Then we get a Wendy and Marty argument. You guys have anything to add on these ones?
No. She snapped. Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's what Wendy and Marty have the argument. The Langmores come by on the boat and flip the bird to Marty and Wendy at the shore. And that's where Wendy puts this connection together in her head that they must have been the ones who dragged the deer to the yard. Mm-hmm. Marty still has some deep acceptance there too. He just goes, oh, okay, so there's them. It's just all elements of what he has to handle. It's nothing's surprising. Nothing's going to hurt him, even if it sucks.
I think Wendy begins to accept a little more responsibility at that point too. They're arguing about something, and she says, I'm not going to be a victim for everything that happens, especially since I'm responsible for most of it.
That's a great line.
Yeah, and she's cleaning up the remains, right? When she's at home, when she comes clean about snapping in the grocery store. Again, she's cleaning up a mess as she does it. No. I don't know which animal that was.
Yeah, there's a few different ones. So then we see, I think, a great scene. Marty goes out on the water on his boat. We still hear same story going on the jukebox. And Marty's out there. I think this was when he was running back and forth. And yeah, he's pacing back and forth on the boat. and upset. And then at this point, he goes to sleep on the boat. I don't remember if that was when he was out on the lake asking, like, what the fuck do I do? What in the hell do I do?
Yeah, I think it was. He's kind of pacing around the boat, saying, I got to be something else. I got to do something else. What do I do? What do I do, Bruce?
Right.
Dunking his head in the water. And from there, he dunks his head in the water and then lays down on the back of the boat and falls asleep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's trying to fucking get it together, and he can't. He really needs sleep at this point.
And he gets his sleep that night, dripping wet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He lays down and sleeps on the boat. And then he wakes up, and he hears the preacher. He wakes up because he hears the preacher on the water. And the preacher, one of the last lines he says is, "For the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." And I thought that was representative of Marty just beginning the laundering for Dell, and on a deeper level, the work of whatever it's going to take to get him and his family out of that situation, no matter how long it takes, no matter what it is he has to do. Next shot, we see Buddy naked again, and Marty says, "Hey, Buddy, can you put something on? You know, we got the kids here and stuff." And Buddy goes, "No," and walks down.
Mm-hmm.
He will not negotiate his nudity, which I love. It's just, again, we're seeing the death presence here. Same story is still playing on the jukebox at this point. So we know that Marty hasn't quite overcome whatever he's got to get through. Then we see a real touching scene, at least for me, where Ruth is eating the leftovers off the dirty dishes.
Mm.
And I felt like, oh, fuck, yeah. She's not even getting enough to eat. You know, she's just trying to do her trip. But and that's when we see Tuck come in, and he's like, "You're pretty." And you see her like just register it all and like, okay. Hey, you ever listen to old school hip hop? No, but I will. So she's going to she's going to change the tune.
Oh, right.
Rachel at the Blue Cat tells Marty, "Don't get my hopes up." This is another bit of a heart crusher. Rachel telling Marty, "Don't get my hopes up about this business because it's starting to go well."
Yeah.
And Marty feels it.
Yeah, you feel that one. Yeah, you feel that one.
Yeah. So I think that also adds to the transcendence of this, is that a lot of people have a mistaken view that enlightenment and transcendence are unfeeling and that you're not in your human life anymore. That's not the case. You feel all of it. It's that none of it is afflicting anymore. None of it causes you or forces you to take action. And we see with Marty here, he'll feel all those things. When Rachel's telling him that, he digests that completely and is like, "Yep, I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm taking responsibility and this hurts, but we'll keep going." So he's not dominated or overwhelmed by anyone else's emotions or the reactions they have. Which can seem harsh too, but that is the case. And that's for folks listening to this, if you're going through the undoing process and learning about yourself and putting up boundaries so you can create the life you want, there's going to be times where you feel sad or people feel let down by you because you're not here to live up to what other people's expectations are anymore. You're here to live up to your mission. And so the way you navigate and assess your life is going to be closer to the way Marty's navigating this situation than it is trying to please everyone, even if it feels sad to let them down. Wendy is on the phone in the next scene, and she sees the dead possum. And then she goes and takes it and throws it at Wyatt and makes a death threat. She says, "If I see you again, you're the one the vultures are going to be picking at." And of course, they have no clue why she's there, why she's throwing that at them. Now, at this point, Wendy has gotten the pistachio ice cream, but she forgot to put it in the freezer before she went and did her possum assault. So it's sat out on the counter and melted. Charlotte comes in, super excited, opens it up, and it's fucking melted.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
I liked her line. I know how to sell the idea of a happy family when she's pitching herself for the job with the realtor.
Right. That's awesome. And we see Charlotte after that ice cream, she's sad and sitting there on the lake, but she's like texting or talking to her friends and telling them everything's okay.
Yeah, she's doing like a Instagram post saying like, you know, one of those kind of like, life on the Ozarks, hashtag blessed.
Yeah.
So there's two aspects of that. One is that she's trying to get herself to feel better and you know, put on a show for other people, but she's also seeing the beauty of where she is, because there was something that got her to look at it. And she's stepping forward and taking responsibility for her state, realizing it's not the fucking ice cream that's going to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we still hear more Bob Seger here. And I think Wendy asks Marty, do you like Bob Seger? He's like, if I did before, I don't anymore. And then we messed it up. But this is where we see the scene where Marty's on the boat again. And he's saying, I got to be something else. And he says, I got to take the fight to them, get dirty. And I think that's where he breaks through is I have to take the fight to them.
This is when he was on the boat?
He went back out on the boat, I think. Or this could be that he's repeating these. These are themes of this episode. Right. So at this point, he goes to the strip joint and secretly buys a lap dance to get info on Bobby Dean. So by getting dirty for Marty, he doesn't mean violating his own mission or his own standards. What it means is going into the fucking thick of the place and playing the game the way they're playing it. Because he still operates completely cleanly, even though he's going to the strip joint at this point.
Yeah, learning about it, exploring it, and then mastering it because of his natural gifts, which are money and negotiation.
Yep. So she goes in to get info, and he tells the woman, just dance facing away from me just like this, or dance facing toward me just like this, and then I have some questions, and that's it. And he's hands off completely. Now, what's really awesome is the next scene we see is Petty with the hooker, with the male prostitute. So we see Marty with the stripper being totally hands off, and now we see the Fed with the male prostitute, basically, essentially raping him and forcing him and fucking him up, and it's a nasty scene.
Yeah, and this is the second time they've played with that theme with Marty coming face to face with that feminine, the lustful energy, and him just holding his space and not letting it impede on his mission.
Yeah, and it's beautiful when he does that. And then we see Petty is completely immersed and afflicted by the situation.
Owned by it.
Yeah, completely owned by it. Ruth is pissed off here. Did you have any notes on that? Okay, so we ended up somewhere with Ruth pissed off.
Oh, because, the pantry was broken into and she sees the money was gone. And that they bought the Bobcats with no balls.
Yeah.
Right, so Boyd and Russ get confronted over that. There was a good little scene with Charlotte and Marty. Marty's sitting outside and he can't sleep, and Charlotte comes out. And then he tries to go to sleep on her. Like he's so desperate for sleep. He leans over and puts his arms around her. And she gets up and he's like, where are you going? And she puts him to bed there on the chairs. And we see that he's insanely sleep deprived at this point. Next, we got Ruth confronting Boyd and Russ with a gun over the fact that they bought 2 female bobcats for breeding. And she locks them in the cage and then finally tells them that she's planning on killing Marty.
Yeah, she has a secret mission, but we'll see how that plays out.
Well, and at the very end, we hear hip hop coming from the Blue Cat.
Oh, the song has changed. Brilliant.
Right. So this theme of the insomnia is very fascinating. If you think about, how some of us have talked about waking sleep So people like EJ Gold or Gurdjieff or these various folks say that you can be awake, physically awake, but asleep to what's going on in your life. I think this is an episode where where the metaphor of the insomnia is Marty has been now facing down the truth, and on so many levels. He's evolving and transcending it so much that his circuits are starting to fry. So finally, at the very end, we see it's Charlotte that gets him to finally get the deep rest. His daughter is okay with him, and she's been rejecting him from the beginning of the episode. She's rejecting Wendy. She's rejecting him. Jonah's still on board. Everything's okay with him. We'll deal with him later. But Charlotte was pissed. And at the end of this episode, she is the one who can comfort, and Marty can finally rest because Charlotte's okay. So that didn't hit me at first, but now I'm feeling it completely, where
Totally.
It wasn't until he knew that everybody else was going to be okay that he could finally get some rest.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
So a really nice episode. A lot of transcendence exhibits going on in there. Well, and we see later with Boyd. We do see Boyd as, I think, a more compassionate character than at first glance. But we'll get into that when we get there. But yeah, if you watch Boyd, there's differences between him and Russ too, and both of them have some interesting qualities, let's say, but they are completely locked into this life in the Ozarks. Mm-hmm. It and them are somewhat the same. All right, folks. So thanks for jumping in and listening to episode 3 of the Ozark Talks. And if you have questions or things you saw on the show that we didn't mention, we'd love to hear from you guys. So you can put that in a review. Or you can send us an email, or you can put it in comments on the post where this episode is also posted at radicalundoing.com/blog, and then just find your way to the Ozark Talks number 3. All right. See you again for episode 4. Enjoy.
See a pair of balls on either of them?
God damn it, Wood. I told you 3 times to check the undercarriages.